I need to go and I need to redig those wells. I need to go and I need to tap into what my daddy did. I need to go and I need to, you see, when the world tries to stop up what used to work and what used to happen and what used to get the job done and what used to be the provision and everything. You know, a lot of churches, they do that too. They stop up the wells of the fathers. They stop up what God intended. They start adding the pretty buildings. There's nothing wrong with the pretty buildings, but they start adding the lights. There's nothing wrong with the lights. They start adding all these things to the holy place when it was just meant to be the holy place. When it was just meant to be the encounter with God. It was just meant to be that. But we've made it something else. And so you got to take out the trash and you got to redig the wells. And you got to start seeing how you once used to see. You got to start speaking how you once used to speak. You got to start doing what you once used to do. I'm going to start digging. I'm going to start digging. He said, man, you remember, Arnold, you remember when you used to walk around and people used to think that you were cocky? And I said, yeah, I stopped up that well, Lord. I put that dirt on that well. He said, yeah, but remember, it wasn't cockiness, it was confidence. I need you to redig that again. Okay? And he said, remember how you were so confident that you would even stand on the word of 1 Samuel chapter 3, and you said, even as Samuel the boy grew in the Lord, that he grew and that none of his words fell to the ground. Remember when you used to say that, Arnold? I said, yes. He said, you stop that up. I need you to redig that again. Remember when you walked around and you said, you know, I might not be a prophet, but everything that I say my Father holds because I'm in him and I'm growing in him and he'll never let any of my words fall to the ground. He said, you need to redig that again. And for some of y'all might have had that attitude at one point or time that God held everything that I say because it lines up with him and I'm growing in him. And just like Samuel, no, nobody did that. It was just me. Okay, just like Samuel, I used to walk around and say, Lord, you hold everything that I say because it is not contradicting your word and therefore it will come to pass. Remember when churches used to declare instead of beg? Remember that? When we used to look at an empty seat and say, I declare there is not going to be any more empty seats in this house because if the nightclubs can be filled up, if the stadium, have you seen the audiences in the basketball games lately? Why? Because they were closed and now they're open and they are jam-packed. Remember when the church would have to be closed for one service and the next it would be filled because of the hunger and the desire of the people? He said, I need you to redig that too. I need you to redig that. Remember how you used to say all these things and you believed it instead of just saying it and hoping for it. I need you to redig that. I need you to get those instruments that you used to walk around and play proudly. I need you to get those back. And I need you to start sounding an alarm, like a trumpet, like a battle, going out to fight the armies. Who would dare to defy the armies of the living God? Remember when you used to think like David? It didn't matter what was in front of you, but you had that opinion and that you were God's chosen vessel, and nobody could come up against you. Why? Because the God whom you serve was inside of you and for you, and if he's for you, who can be against you? So you would go. You would go and didn't care about what it looked like. You didn't care about what other people said. Oh, but that's the part that we've allowed to get into the altar. What other people say. It doesn't matter what other. Remember when you could care. I remember those days when I didn't care about what anybody said. I didn't care about what anybody did. I would actually laugh. But no, we've gotten to the point where we get hurt. That's that thing that we've allowed to come in, that trash, where we get hurt when people leave. But remember, Arnold, we used to say, for everyone that leaves, two are going to come back. You remember when you used to think that way? You remember when it didn't matter who was in the church because you were more concerned about grabbing who was out in the world to fill the church instead of trying to get other church people into the church? Do you remember that, Arnold? I need you to redig that. I need you to redig that. Do you remember everything that I've done for you? I need you to go back and redig that. Remember when we used to think almost like we were invincible because of the God that we serve? Remember when you said, you know what, Lord, I don't know how they did it in the New Testament. I don't know how they actually stood up to death, Lord, but I would like to think that I would do the same if they said either serve, deny God, or die. I remember I say, Lord, I would die for you. And now we get scared of a fine. When we used to think, I'd die for you, Lord. And we get scared of a fine. Remember when the church used to think that way? It don't matter what anybody does to us. You used to say, Lord, I wouldn't have kneeled neither. I would go in the fire. I wouldn't do that either, Lord, because I know you. And then somewhere along the line, when stuff gets hot, we start Michael Jacksoning. Well, I didn't really mean that literal, God. I used to do it better. It's the shoes, it's traction. But you say, no, I would go in the fire, God. But somewhere along the line, we actually stopped up the wells. It wasn't the enemy. We actually did those things. We actually unintentionally started stopping up the wells. Why? Because we started adding all this other stuff that was never supposed to be there in the first place. But we got concerned with the way things looked. You see, they try to make the house of God look better. Try to make it look prettier. Try to make it look more appealing to the eyes. With all their idol worshipers. Oh, let's go ahead and let's put this golden things in there. The Bible says, go read it. You got homework. The Hezekiah started breaking off all the gold off the doors. Started breaking all that trash. Started doing all those things. Yeah, it looked better, but he didn't do them any better. It looked good, but there was really no purpose other than to drive you away from what God had intended. And so we unintentionally have done that and stopped up the wells. And God is saying, I need you to start digging. I need you to start redigging. I need you to start. But remember when you used to get a diagnosis? And you used to diagnose your diagnosis? Not in the negative way, but the diagnosis would be like, oh, this is the reason why you're feeling like this. And so that they would start pinpointing what it is. Well, then you would diagnose your diagnosis. No, I understand that. But all sickness is from the pit of hell, not from God. So I'm a doc. You do not belong here on my body. You would diagnose a diagnosis. No, you came from the devil and I'm from God. You remember when you used to do that? Instead, automatically we start getting fearful now all of a sudden. You start redigging those wells. Start redigging those things. Going back to what the fathers have placed. Going back to what the fathers have toiled for. And the Bible says that because Isaac did this, the Lord blessed him. Because he redug the wells.